Hello, all. Welcome back to a brand new episode of Justin Talks TV. We are so back with some new content, doing video mode right now. So, if you're listening on audio and you want to listen to on video, you can head over to YouTube and you can check out Justin Talks TV video mode, trying to incorporate the video podcast back in as much as possible. Sometimes I can't do it because I'm real busy and I just only have time to do audio, but we're doing video to do this very special episode. Every episode is very special to me, but this episode we're talking about The Bear, season 3. The Bear came back a couple weeks ago or so. So hopefully that's giving you guys enough time to binge before we get into the episode. You definitely have to watch all of The Bear season 3 to listen to this episode, because I will be talking about everything that happened and giving you my thoughts and opinions and kind of covering what's being said about the third season of the hit FX Hulu series. So, let's get into it. Yeah, so like I said, The Bear came back for its third season on June 27th, a couple weeks ago. Highly anticipated third season. After this is the first season that aired after its Emmy wins for the first season. And if you listen to my past episodes about The Bear, you know that I really, really enjoy the show and think it's great. And if you listen to my episode about TV awards season from January, you will also understand that I am not a fan at all of The Bear being put in the comedy category. And I think the third season really, really made me feel that even more. Well, I don't know about more, but I most of the time I was like, yeah, I don't know why we keep putting this in the comedy category. There's just little jokes here and there to undercut tension, but overall, I cannot say it's comedy, and that's always going to be my beef. No pun intended with The Bear. That it does not fall in the comedy category at all for me, because we're exploring, like, season 3 explored even deeper and darker themes than ever, getting more into people's, specifically Carmi's, like, trauma and psychosis, what's inside his mind, as well as other characters that are having just an incredibly hard time in going through things. So it's like, which is what I like about the show, is that it gives us a deep dive into these characters, but not necessarily in a way that I see as comedic. So there's that. As we get into the third season, keep those things in mind, that I do not find it to be a comedy series. So starting off the first episode, coming back, we come back from season 2 where Carmi was locked in the freezer. He has a really angry, screaming match with Richie, the from opening night of the new restaurant, which is now called The Bear. So The Bear is also the name of the restaurant and the show. So, um, yeah. So, and it's coming right off of that. Carmi's out of the freezer. No, that's not surprising at all. We didn't think the whole season was going to take place in the freezer. So, yeah, so Carmi's out of the freezer. He kind of gives a, like, sort of apology to Sydney, like, a little bit. He also sends, like, a voicemail apology to Richie, which Richie does not accept. Him and Richie are always beefing. I will always. How many times will I say beef in this episode? Um, but yeah. And then so now the restaurant is. Oh, and most importantly, kind of to this season that's going to continue, is also the aftermath of the Claire fallout. If you'll remember, in the season 2 finale, also um said some things. that were overheard by his girlfriend at the time, Claire, basically saying, you know, their whole thing is like a big waste of time and all that, and, how unhappy he is, and blah, blah, blah. Like, basically just things that his girlfriend was not supposed to overhear, and now he's also dealing with the aftermath of that. um, which takes us to the first episode of the season. I would say the first episode of the season really caught my attention as someone who was like kind of who was a filmmaker, and the cinematic quality of the first episode was just top notch. Like it was very well done with all the like flashbacks being cut together, very little dialogue, showing back and forth between all these different between kind of like the present and the past, and kind of exploring a lot of Carmi's journey, specifically about how he got to where he is now, like the past restaurants he's worked at, like when he moved to New York, certain stuff with his brother, things like that. That showed his past and how he ended up with the Carmi that we are with now in this element of time of the bear, where how did Carmi become this person that we've seen, kind of very unhinged, is kind of like the first word that comes to mind, and very out of sorts and stressed and all that. So it was so cinematic and so well done. I thought it was a really well done episode. I wish I could just watch Christopher Shore do his thing for like a day, just like walk around with him and see how he does his directing, and how I was just so curious about the writing too. Like, how do you write an episode like that with so many and flashback sequences and very little dialogue and stuff like that to like establish that character, and like the all the other characters kind of, well, not all the other characters. It had a main Carmi focus, but also had a couple other elements with like his family and things like that. There wasn't too much of like other characters. There's a little bit of Richie and everything, but we have like other episodes throughout the season that kind of get more into there, um, a little more into some of the other characters' backstories. So just cinematically so well done, and it definitely caught my eye as what is this episode trying to do, or what is it trying to say? And that felt like a theme throughout the whole season. What is the third season of The Bear trying to accomplish, and what is it trying to say, and what is it trying to give us about these characters? Um, is a theme that is definitely going to be explored throughout the season. Definitely something to talk about this third season. And then the second episode is when we start back into the present, back into like the day after, yeah, like the day after the Bears opening nights of the restaurant, and dealing with the fallout and where Carmi is at now. So for one thing, I'll say this is the thing that sets off Carmi as very annoying this season. Like, Carmi was a frustrating character to watch this season. Truly, in this season, you just truly showed how Carmi is as a person, and how he's not a great leader, and how overly stressed he gets, and how he is really self sabotaging himself and kind of sabotaging his own restaurants. Um, so season 3 starts off with Carmi discussing with the staff about non-negotiables that he has for the restaurant, and wanting to get a Michelin star, and how restaurants at the highest level operate. Some of them being like, changing the menu every day, which will be important the rest of the season. Cleaning cleaning up as they go. Oh, a bunch of other stuff. I can't remember the whole list, but it was a lot of stuff that made everybody's lives in the kitchen so much harder. And you also were starting to establish. You, of course, the audience is very aware how dysfunctional the kitchen was when it was just, the original beef restaurant. But now they really start to get into that. This kitchen is highly dysfunctional. For one thing, they cover that all the other staff from that you saw in the season 2 finale that were working there, they quit because they described it as a dysfunctional kitchen, which is an understatement. I think the kitchen on the bear is so incredibly dysfunctional. The screaming, the yelling, the fighting, the redoing things, that's another non-negotiable. It's like everything had to be perfect, all the stuff that was just making the kitchen highly dysfunctional. And I think this is when we see the kitchen on the bear at its most dysfunctional. Which that's always been a part of the series, is that this is not a well run kitchen and that it's a complete disaster from the inside in a way. So that's kind of just something that's definitely covered throughout the season. And we still have, and Richie, you already mad at Carmy about their argument and falling out, and the things that um mainly that Carmy was saying to Richie in the freezer about how basically F you, you're a loser, starts saying stuff about his kid or whatever. So yeah, it was but then on top of the non-negotiables that he finds to be incredibly unreasonable, and Richie has a different way of the way he thinks the restaurant should be run, because he's really thinking about the restaurant experience he had at um, Ever, the restaurant he was a stage at in the season 2 episode Forks, and thinking about how much they accommodate the guests and make them feel like they're having a great experience and stuff like that. So that's a big deal this season. In the second episode, there's really or the second or third episode, there's a whole fight with them in the kitchen and everything, and knocking over Sydney's. It's just this kitchen is this show. That's also, I know it's how he's it stresses me out to watch it. Sometimes I'm oh my god, I'm just how is all this happening? I could not imagine working here. It's driving me it just kind of drives me nuts sometimes. That's why I know it's how many. I feel there's a pit in my stomach sometimes watching the things that go on this show, to where I'm um, how are we labeling this comedy? When I watch comedies, I'm on. I feel on top of the world if it's a really great comedy. There's no pit in my stomach. I'm having a great time. But this show it's stressing me out so bad, so bad. Um, so yeah. So throughout the season, and also this is important. Carmy giving up smoking. I think that man needed a cigarette the whole season. Cause what? Cause it seemed like he was more stressed out and doing more extra stuff like when he was off the cigarettes. I'm like, sir, just go smoke a cigarette because clearly you need it. Yeah, so it was just Carmi's leadership over the season was just something that was hard to really um tolerate, to watch. It was hard to watch in that way. And one other thing that's like really important to this season's arc is the relationship between Sydney and Carmy. And one thing, I think this is weird. I love a good ship. I love a good couple and their journey to getting together, but Sydney and Carmy are not a ship for me. Like I don't ship them like at all. I don't know where people are kind of getting the Sydney Carmy kind of like rooting for them like so bad. I definitely think Sydney probably had a crush on Carmy kind of in the beginning, and they clearly have like some sort of admiration for each other. But as a couple, I don't see them working like really at all. Especially since Carmy needs to be checked into a mental institution. Like, what is wrong with this man? Why are y'all trying to put her with Sydney? Because this man is out of his mind. So their relationship, one, I don't see as romantic. It's barely even. They're barely good friends. They're barely good business partners. So I think we're like 20 steps in the future talking about, oh, they should be together. I don't think so. I need a little more growth between the two of them to be like, oh, they should be a couple. I ship them. They have that chemistry, the two have good chemistry, but I need more than chemistry to be shipping them. But what my main point is that Carmy and Sydney's relationship deteriorates really to the worst it's been like this season. By the end of the season, they don't seem happy as a duo at all. Like there's a whole theme throughout the season of Sydney um, not really sure about if she wants to be partners with Carmy in this restaurant. Carmy put together a partnership agreement where she gets, a certain stake in the restaurant's earnings and all that because they're partners. In the whole season, she keeps deliberating over signing it because it's becoming clear to her that it's hard to that she doesn't know she can work with Carmy and be his partner because Carmy is doesn't respect her like as a partner, like with even with the non-negotiables just to start, like um you didn't discuss these with Sydney. She has no input on the menu. You're basically just telling her to do whatever you want. And like I get that it's like technically like Carmy's restaurant, but if you're gonna have a partnership with Sydney and you respect her as a chef and you're saying how much you need her, you have to treat her as a partner, and that's why their relationship gets worse and worse as the season goes on. By the time the end of the season, like, they seem like they barely like each other. There's one scene that is like I keep thinking about when so it was one episode, it's maybe the third episode, and like Carmy is like flipping out as usual. He's just like, you guys are going too slow. And like, and Sydney, now I can't curse on this podcast, so but she was just like, I'm not your effing babysitter. You need to calm down. And it's just like, oh my gosh. And it's just like, wow. It's just like she really, I mean, she got him with that. And you could just see that feels like her role is like containing Carmy and all his like melodrama. So, and then Sydney gets offered this other job, with one of Carmy's old coworkers, to be a chef at a new restaurant he's opening, and it sounded like a much better deal than, I mean, even just money wise and stuff like that. Like the deal sounded better, but let alone it's just like the restaurant is like a clear sinking ship. Carmy is not treating you as an equal or as a partner like you think he should be. And I think there's a part of her that was still part of her deliberation. She hasn't even told Carmy. And by the end of the season, she has like a panic attack about it. Like trying to decide, between the two because I think she really values what she has at the Bear, and but at the same time, I think she knows that she also can't stay there the way things are going. So that's kind of Sydney's arc for the season is kind of, is this where I'm supposed to be? Am I getting what I want out of this partnership? Do I really want to stay at the Bear? Because I think she values her coworkers at the Bear, and I think her original admiration for Carmy when she first started working at the original Beef is what might still make her want to hold on, but at the same time, I think she knows I can't keep doing this. And if I was her, it'd be like no hesitation. It's just like, yeah, I cannot stay and work for you. Like he kind of undermines her like skill level sometimes, like, and like things like that, and just like in the restaurant, another theme of the restaurant is that the odds of this restaurant working are so low. And by the end of the season, you know, the Uncle Jimmy who like funds the place is like, if you don't get like a good review in the New York Times or whatever, then I gotta pull the plug on this. Um, and then Carmy is like spending all this money on things that are used once, and really just he's throwing away a bunch of food, keep trying to make everything perfect. He's ruining like service, like people are waiting a long time for their food because he wants thing to be absolutely perfect, even though it's fine. I know that's stressing Tina out because Tina trying to keep up. She's the main one doing the cooking. Um, and so it's just like becoming like so hard. Like so the Bear, the restaurant's like chances of succeeding are also so low, and that's kind of um definitely a strong part of the season is that it's the restaurant, you know, like at the beginning of the season Marcus tells Carmi basically like, I'm all in with you, like we need to do whatever we can to make this work. Because this is other people's jobs too. Um, and the only thing that's making money at the Bear is the drive-through window that's still selling like the original Italian beef sandwiches. Um, so yeah, it's just like really the Bear covers like so much about like fine dining and these characters. And let me get into like a couple other big things before I wrap up here. So this season is being talked about the way, the style, and the format of it, because people are saying the this season was had much less plot and structure. The other two seasons, like the audience score is only like 58%, while the critics rating is like 93%. And so audiences really did not have as strong of a opinion as this third season of The Bear, and I honestly kind of felt the same way. Um, because I don't know, something just felt like it was just so different than the other two seasons that didn't have the same pool or anything as the other two see. It's hard to describe. It's so hard to wrap my head around exactly what I felt I wasn't getting out of the other two seasons with this one. I think it's because I had no whole season. I kept wondering, where are we going? Where is this leading up to? Where we're going to see? Like season two, the whole season was leading up to the Bear opening and them starting this new restaurant. Each episode took a step toward that um moment. And season three, it was just like the restaurant's open. Now what? I guess we're showing different parts of the restaurant and different characters, and we're going back in time to where before this character worked at the restaurant, which is so interesting. And the Bear is very non-linear, and that's like interesting, but at the same time, I think fans really expected more out of this third season, and it was just very it felt, and like one thing is also that the characters felt the same and there wasn't any character growth season, and I think that's kind of, I feel like that's a little true. Carmi definitely did not grow. I feel like he grew back. He like got worse. Richie, I felt like we kind of lost a little bit of his development from season two. A little bit. He was definitely more better in certain ways, but other ways he was still the kind of guy causing problems and stuff like that. And there was just so much like I think they really want to give us a background to like who these characters are, but I think the third season didn't need that as much. I felt like we established these characters pretty well the past couple of seasons, where I definitely want to see more of the restaurant stuff and how Carmi could grow as a leader and running this restaurant, everything. There was definitely something that this was definitely the weakest season of The Bear. I will say that. It definitely was not as strong as the other two seasons. The only episodes that really stood out to me was the first episode, style wise, and how very cinematically well done it was, and I really liked that. It was truly something really something to watch. And then the episode with Tina's story, cuz in a way we haven't explored too much of Tina's story, but I um kind of liked her backstory episode. It was definitely well done and show how why she has this connection to the current the Bear restaurant and how she got into working with all these people and more about who she is, because the open episode was about she got fired from her old job before she came to work at the original Beef. It shows when she met Mikey, Carmi's brother, and Richie and all them, and how she became connected to that world, and they just gave more Tina backstory, which was a good episode. It was a good episode. It was very well done. Io Debris actually directed it. It was the highest rated episode of the season with like a 9.4 on IMDb because it was a very well done episode. I think um, I liked aspects of the episode Ice Chips. But it definitely felt like it was too long, and I like that. I think they wanted to give Donna, Carmi and Sugar's mom, like some sort of redemption, showing that she's growing, and they wanted that moment. But the episode was like very long, and I don't know. I just didn't know how. It was nice to see the growth of like a parent and her kind of connecting and how it relates to her birth to her child and like stuff like that. It was like I liked that, but at the same time it felt too long. It felt like I didn't need this whole episode somehow, and even though it was like well done, the Bear is always like well done. I can never give it like from a visual way, and I could tell they're putting a lot of thought into character development and things like that. But you know, I don't know. Ice Chips was probably the other best one. Other than that, I felt like the other episodes were like decent. They were like decent, I think the one thing people were saying, there was a lot of filler content this season. I like filler in certain shows. Like sometimes, like I like a little side quest episode, but I felt like with the Bear, I almost felt like I didn't need. I don't. with it, if with there only being 10 episodes, I don't think they have a lot of room to do like side off episodes. I think every episode really needs to be showing us something to move the plot forward. I think filler works in like shows that have like a 22 episode season. If they have like 10 episodes, then I think we really need to be focused on the plot stuff with like the restaurant and like things like that. Even though I like learning more about the characters, we know the characters so well. I actually think things with like Richie and the whole thing with like his ex-wife and things like that. I think we already did a lot of Richie stuff, and I wasn't very interested in that, to be honest. Shout out to Gillian Jacobs though from my favorite show, Community, for guest starring. She's great. Um but I also wanted to mention the last episode of the season, which left on like a cliffhanger type of thing. Um, and this is kind of where I'll start to wrap up a bit. So the last episode was with the restaurant Ever closing, the restaurant where Carmi worked at, and where Richie went to do the staging before in the episode Forks, like I mentioned, and that's also where the guy who's trying to get Sydney a job works, and the chef there was a mentor to Carmi and Richie, so it was like talking a lot about they were talking a lot with like other chefs and things like that. And kind of Sydney was hearing a lot about their experiences and like the worst thing you for your career is like to have a bad boss, and Carmi is becoming that bad boss for Sydney that's holding back her career. Like when she's asking them about like their first dishes and stuff like that. She kind of hasn't had like her like first real dish because Carmi is controlling everything. And I think she's really start that made her really start to think about, okay, how is Carmi like as a boss? And he's like also sitting right there, and then she still has to discuss this new job with Shapiro. And like she is stressed. Like tell she's stressed. She's having a really hard time like deciding and making this decision to where she hasn't even told Carmi. But the most intriguing part of the episode was so ever since the first season, we've seen flashbacks of Carmi working in this restaurant where he's being berated by this chef that is like very like abusive to him, is always down his back and you know be on top of him and stuff like that, to where he's like really why he's so mentally ill now. And he's played by Joe McHale. Shout out another Community cast member. Love that there are two Community cameos. I love that. But and then Joe McHale's character, his character's name is David Fields, is at this dinner at Eber, and Carmi finally is now face to face with this person that has really had this strong impact on his life in a negative way, and that we've been seeing for the past 3 seasons, that this guy is like someone that Carmi has truly had an awful experiences with, and he's telling, and like it starts off first, David Fields gets his name wrong. He doesn't remember his name, and then like Carmi was like, I always wondered like what I would say to you if I ever saw you again or whatever, and like he's like basically like I don't think about you, and he really just kind of really makes Carmi feel even worse. He's like, and Carmi's telling him like I got ulcers because of you, and like you stress me out, and like you really did a number on me, like and like is in the gist is what he was saying. Like he's just like, well, you're welcome. I pushed you to a whole new level. You wouldn't be, the chef that you are today if I hadn't pushed you, and yada yada. I basically like, okay, like you're welcome. Like you're better because of it. So Carmi was like crushed. Like respect, like understandably, like I can imagine like having that kind of conversation with somebody. And Jeremy Allen White is like such a phenomenal actor. It's when I watch interviews with him and like the Bearcat, I'm just like, this guy seems so happy and like normal and nice. But so that's why him playing Carmy is such brilliant acting. And I can imagine playing a character like that where I'm truly breaking down like that and having these very strong, mentally ill type moments. And he talks about Christopher Storer does very little takes and moves things fast so people don't have to stay in those like moments for too long. Um so yeah, and then so the season ends with everybody goes like this after party at Sydney's and they having a good time until Sydney like sees this old thing in her refrigerator about the bear and like Carmi's first meal, or no. It wasn't at the. I think it was at Ever, or it was like Carmi. It was something about Carmi's food, and when she ate there, or whatever, and she had that on her refrigerator, and suddenly she has to step out, and she has this panic attack that she's basically been building up to the entire season. Um, because she is stressing now because she is in such an internal conflict between leaving Carmi because she doesn't know how he'll react and taking this new opportunity that could ultimately be better for her career. And at the same time, Carmi is walking, and the review for the restaurant finally comes in, and the guy who like, he's a guy. The computer is a guy who like told them the odds of the restaurant working, and we leave on this cliffhanger of what did the review say? Because, like I said before, the review is basically determining the fate of the restaurant. So now in season 4, we're going to see where things pick up from. And yeah, that was the Bear season 3 in like a nutshell. And it was definitely not its strongest season, but I'm not gonna go all the way to saying it was just bad. I don't think it was just like some people are just being like it was outright bad. I don't think it was bad. It wasn't its strongest, and I would have preferred a little more plots as opposed for like character backstory type of things, and more like kind of like restaurant focus. But um, I would love to hear thoughts when I post this. Type under the comment section or whatever, Instagram, whatever. Tell me what you guys think of the Bear season 3. There was another point people were talking about there are too many guest stars and they're too focused on star power. I don't necessarily agree. I don't think they were doing that thing where they just only add a bunch of guest stars for no reason. A lot of those guest stars were already established, so I didn't really feel that way. I will say the John Cena cameo was too random. I didn't need John Cena there. No, I don't think so. Like, yeah, it was just too awkward, and that fell force. Also, with the facts, I will say the fact family is the main thing that seems to be like it's like little comedy thing that they're bringing in, and people be like, "Oh, they never, oh, it's a comedy, guy." I'm like, it's not. It is not a comedy. I will say that till the end of days, like this show is not a comedy. When I just looked it up while I was recording, it'll say as comedy, drama, and also psychological drama. It is a psychological drama. There is not comedy being when the writers do not sit in the writers' room like they do on Abbott or Hacks or Only Murders, trying to come up with jokes or how to make this situation lighthearted. They want us to be stressed. So it's not comedy, but keep on trying. So they're going to keep giving them the comedy awards, but at the end of the day, it's not comedy. So that I went this whole episode without going on my whole "it's not a comedy" rant. So you made it to the end without me getting on that. So overall, the Bear season 3 definitely still a watch. Definitely its weakest season. I definitely hope season 4 moves back into some, kind of more plot based stuff that we can really, really get back to why we really like what was really the first two seasons. I'm worried, has the bear fallen off? Is this kind of where the first two seasons just kind of its best run? And I don't know. I don't know what's next for season 4. I really don't. So I don't know. I don't know where this series is going. I hope it doesn't, fall off track. So, but that's my thoughts on The Bear season 3. Thank you for tuning in to another episode of Justin Talks TV. More episodes coming soon. I still have to talk about Suits. I still have to talk about a couple sitcom stuff. So stay tuned for more episodes very soon. And I will catch you guys next time. Thank you.